Hello everyone, Joel here from Golf Monthly, and in this video I'm taking a look at the new TaylorMade Sim Max and Sim Max OS irons, two new game improvement irons for TaylorMade that they say should offer you more distance and forgiveness, of course, but also an iron that feels and sounds a lot better as well. It feels closer to that of a forged club than you might expect from a game improvement club. So I'm really excited to test these out up against the outgoing M5 and M6 irons, see how they compare in terms of looks, feel and performance. We'll break this video down into various different categories to really give you a thorough rundown of all the different areas that golfers look for when choosing new irons and really assessing if these irons outperform the previous models. So I think it's about time we get started. Right, so let's start with the looks of these irons, especially at address, because TaylorMade have kind of made a bit of a shift towards the game improvement category with these Sim Max and Sim Max OS irons. They felt like the M5 iron from last year. There's a bit of a crossover there between the game improvement club, the M series, and then the P series, which is more for the better player, especially around that P790 iron model. You know, there was definitely some crossover with M5. Which is why these irons are a bit larger, you know, starting with the Sim Max. This is definitely larger than the M5 at address. M5 didn't have much offset, actually quite a thin top line. It was quite a nice looking iron. You know, this definitely has a little bit more offset and a thicker top line than M5. It's actually more comparable, I would say, to M6. So if you're looking for a direct comparison, Sim Max and M6 are actually quite similar. Both got a little bit of offset, shinier finish, thick top line, very confidence inspiring down behind the ball. You can see the fluted hosel on M6, but it's less noticeable on the Sim Max. So they're kind of taking that away on the front of the hosel there. So that's nice and hidden. And then moving into the Sim Max OS, this kind of just takes it a step further. You know, I've got all four down here, and the Sim Max OS is definitely noticeably larger. It's got a wider sole, which is visible at address, especially in the longer irons. A bit more offset, thicker top line, just a bit more confidence inspiring than Sim Max. Not a huge amount of difference between the two. These are fairly large irons compared to what TaylorMade offer in the rest of its range and on the market as a whole. Definitely a shift towards offering golfers a more confidence inspiring look to help those mid-handicap golfers who maybe struggle with their iron shots, hopefully inspire them that a good shot is upcoming and that there is some forgiveness on hand to help them out. Okay, so now we're talking about sound and feel with these clubs, and I've got all four here on the range here. Going to hit some shots, and hopefully you can detect from the audio from my microphone the differences in sound and feel between these clubs, because they are, I've been hitting a few already. I feel like there's quite a significant shift here from TaylorMade with the feel of these clubs. So I'm going to hit one with M5 and M6 first. So this is M5 to start with. It's a bit echoey in here, but it's quite a loud sound. It feels relatively soft still, but it's also quite high pitched, I felt. And then M6, I felt like when I tested it last year, was a bit hotter, a bit more powerful, and also not quite as soft as well for me. So I'll hit one with M6 as well so you can hear that. Similar, I would agree, I think you'd agree in terms of pitch. But now let's try the Sim Max iron. So I've got here. These are all brand new range balls, so shouldn't be any differences in terms of the balls. Let's see if you can detect any differences here. Definitely less reverberation, I think you'd agree. Similar pitch, but definitely a much shorter sound, and for many that will contribute to a softer feel. TaylorMade have incorporated some technologies that's achieved this. So you've got the speed bridge, which we saw with the previous models, but there's also this echo dampening system built into these clubs, which is definitely, I would say, contributing to is a more pleasing feel and sensation. So let's see if that is also the case with the Sim Max OS iron. Let's see if that shorter sound is noticeable with this, because this is a true, you know, super game improvement club designed for the very high handicappers. Definitely higher pitched and possibly closer to M5 and M6 in terms of sound and feel, but definitely out of the four that we've tested, Sim Max iron definitely has the best sound and feel for me. I'm going to have another hit with it actually because I enjoyed it so much. Much closer to that of P790, for example. You know, it's basically a game improvement club for me, with the feel of, you know, a kind of mid to low handicap iron, you know, really compact cavity back iron. So there you go. I really like the sound and feel of that club. I think a lot of golfers out there will too. Right, okay, so I have the iPad here to talk you through some of the numbers that we got testing these irons indoors with premium golf balls on the Foresight Sports GCQuad launch monitor. I will put the data up on pause. You can pause the screen if you want to take a deeper dive into all the various numbers of all 4 of these irons. So we set some base numbers with M5 and M6, and then we hit the Sim Max and the Sim Max OS. Interestingly, there's some changes in the lofting of these game improvement irons. So M5 has a loft, a 7-iron loft of 30 degrees, and M6 has a 7-iron loft of 28.5 degrees, and that is the same as the Sim Max iron. So that's an interesting comparison, which we'll come on to. And then Sim Max OS has a 7-iron loft of 27 degrees. So very strong, one of the strongest 7-iron lofts on the market. So base numbers with M5, ball speed of 125, spinning at 5.6, an average carry of 178, and then moving into Sim Max. So actually the stock shaft of these irons is a 1/4 of an inch shorter than the M5 and M6. So be interesting to see how that affects club head speed and distance. And looking at Sim Max compared to M6, the ball speed was basically the same, slightly lower with the Sim model. Again, that could be down to that slightly shorter shaft, but very similar carry distances of around 182, 181 with both of those irons. Interestingly, the Sim Max iron does spin the ball around about 300 RPM less. So that's an interesting point of difference there between those clubs, because ultimately the Sim Max and the M6 do perform very similarly. Although I would say that the dispersion for me felt a little bit easier to control with Sim Max. Definitely didn't hit as many shots offline with the Sim Max as I did the M6, but there really wasn't much in it. We've touched on the feel and sound differences between the two. That's where another big advantage comes. But in terms of actual performance, there wasn't a great deal there. But then you go up to Sim Max OS iron, there you are getting a bigger jump in ball speed there, 1.5 miles an hour quicker off the face with the Sim Max OS, and then, you know, it's launching similarly 14.5 degrees, spinning a lot lower. You'd expect that with a 7-iron lofted down at 27. 4.8 is fairly low, but you're not losing out on launch or height. You know, peak height of 31 yards, it's still getting the ball up in the air relatively easily. An average carry of 188 yards is very, very impressive. Hit one out there at 189, one out there at 191. So I was getting some impressive carry distances with this club. Definitely, if you're looking for out and out distance, the Sim Max OS is obviously the way to go. Slower swing speed is going to appreciate these extra distance. Good speed, nice low spin to help penetrate the wind if you are hitting into the wind. It's generally what kind of performance you'd expect from a low lofted game improvement club, and just takes what M6 did last year and kind of builds upon it. But if you are looking for slightly more manageable distance, you do have the Sim Max iron there, which is reining it in a little bit, but they are still both very strong lofted. So hopefully that's given you a pretty good guide as to how these irons perform. Right, okay, so on to the overall verdict of the Sim Max and Sim Max OS irons. You know, I've tested these irons today here at Burley Park Golf Club, and also last week at West Hill. You know, I had 2 sessions on the range using these clubs, and I've got to say, the more I hit them, the more impressed I was with what these irons offered. I think I mentioned earlier in the video, the standout kind of feature, or the thing that sets these irons apart, especially in the Sim Max iron, is the feel. It doesn't have that feel you often associate with game improvement clubs. It still feels fast, but it feels relatively soft and relatively muted sound. It's a nice combination TaylorMade have incorporated into this head. Of course, you get that distance and forgiveness that you expect from a game improvement iron. And actually, I was surprised at how straight these irons were as well. You know, it's not an iron designed for me, a 5 handicap golfer. You know, if you want something that's a bit more compact and slimline down behind the ball that still offers good distance, you can obviously opt for the P790 model, which is an excellent club. But this is clearly a club aimed for the mid and high handicapper who doesn't mind looking at a larger profile, you know, one that's relatively oversized down behind the ball. They want a head that's going to inspire confidence, address, and they can rest assured that this club will deliver excellent all-round performance across different strike points on the face. You're going to get a lot of help from this club. Without necessarily getting that harsh feel. It's going to feel very nice as well. So really impressed with what the TaylorMade SimMax and SimMax OS irons offer. Onto the pricing. These come in $899 for a 7-piece set, so it's slightly less than what M5 was, slightly more than what M6 was. So that's a pretty typical for game improvement iron prices, I would say, for a 7-piece set. Obviously, you need to go and get fitted. Try them both out. Compare them. Obviously, the SimMax OS is going to give you more distance, but it's whether that's going to create gapping issues for you, or whether the ball flight is too low for you, whether there's, if you don't really want that extra distance that SimMax OS is going to offer you, the SimMax is possibly an ideal compromise. Does just build on what M5 and M6 offered last year. Really like M5 and M6. I thought they were really impressive irons, and there was possibly a greater point of difference between the two, SimMax and SimMax OS. Relatively similar in terms of the look, but there is a big jump in distance there from those changes in the lofts that TaylorMade have incorporated. So hopefully you found this review helpful. Hopefully it's given you an insight into what both of these irons offer and maybe steering you into one over the other. But like I said, go and try them out. And if you do, let me know, comment on the video down below. But from Burley Park Golf Club here in Stamford, it's goodbye from me, and we'll see you again soon.